So it's been a minute since I've used the P6 on videos and live streams. And to be quite honest, I had just been not using it because of all of the awesome samplers that have been coming out recently. And they've just taken my time away from using the P6. And I didn't really miss it at the time, right? But a lot of my students lately have been wanting to learn the P6. And so I was using it a little bit more just to kind of refresh on the ideas of how it works and all that stuff, because that is one of its issues. There's a lot going on in this small little box. And I noticed how much fun I was having making music with it, and especially the granular engine, because pretty much no other sampler, at least in this kind of price range, but even up until something like the Poly and Tracker, no other sampler has granular synthesis. And it can be weird, it can be tedious, it can be kind of hard to dial in the right sound, but when it works, it really works, and it's awesome. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is talking about what is awesome still about the P6, despite things like, I have it over here, but the MPC sample coming out, the EP133 even, the SP404 of course. And you know, I posted a poll because of this, asking what everybody was thinking about, like what sampler has stuck with them. And of course, SP404 is the massive winner. No surprise there, given my channel and stuff. But I was surprised how few actually mentioned the P6, especially given how many of my students like swear by it. So I just thought it was interesting, and after using it more, I'm like, no, it is awesome. So I wanted to just show kind of some of the strengths of it. And we can also talk at the end ways you can combine the P6, because it is relatively inexpensive at like 200 something bucks, with slightly more expensive synths or samplers to get the best of both worlds. So we're gonna start with this little vocal sample. We're actually gonna throw it in the granular engine, because I have an idea of how we can get that to sound really cool. So to start, we'll just set this to, let's say, something like, I don't know, 92 BPM, 93 BPM. Cresshead says, this happens all the time. Latest things becomes yesterday's news. I mean, yeah, of course, there's going to be hype cycles for things, and I get that. And I think the MPC sample is pretty awesome, but something like the granular engine on here and is not on the MPC sample. And there's just always new stuff coming out. So I like to just always stick by the things we already have and make the most of them. All right, so by hitting pattern granular, we can set that sample to this. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, because I don't want much of that change, is change the endpoint of the sample now in the granular engine. Now, you may not notice much difference yet, and this is one of the weird quirks of the granular engine. Once we start making some changes, you will. So let's just move into the granular settings with Shift G, and we'll see what we got. So I'm going to start with head position. So I'm not going to move head position. I don't want it moving to a different spot of the sample. I want it right at the start, because I really just want that first sample. And then spread, we're going to go negative. You can hear it's not moving as much now. Or that's head speed, sorry, not spread. Head speed, I want to put less, because I only want that first sample. That's that first little sound, just this part right here. And then let's go over to spread. We don't want any spread. And we've got grain. So let's go. I don't want it super quick, but I also don't want it super slow, because you could hear what that sounded like, you know? That should work. And we're going to make a couple adjustments that fix that kind of like delay sound. Toby says, be grateful that we have a choice in gear for okay prices. It's so much fun with these little toys, and they're getting better every time. Oh, I'm not grateful. I don't know if that's to someone else in the chat, but no, I think it's awesome that we have all these choices and that we can go back to these things. But I think it is easy to get lost in wanting something new for whatever promises it might have, but usually we can make things work with what we already have. And I think that's awesome that we have these choices of, we can go expensive things, cheaper things, stick with what we have. It's great. All right, grain shape. So I actually want it at 50, because that's going to create almost like an LFO of going up and down in volume. Hear how really just like chaotic and looped it sounds like? But with this at about 50, it has a volume fade in and fade out with every grain, so that helps a ton. Grain size, let's do a longer grain, because again, I'm trying to turn this into a pad. That's what, when I heard that sample, I was like, this could be a really cool pad. Okay, grain reverse. And by the way, in my P6 cheat sheet, I have explainers of what all of these are. I'm not going to go through this now. I also have videos. If you check my P6 playlist, I have a full breakdown of what every setting in here does. So if you are curious, like, what I'm legitimately doing for each of these, go ahead and ask it in the chat if you are. But I'm just going to kind of speed through it because I just want to get to the end result more. So we're going to do some reverses to the grains. So some of the grains reverse. TNJ we don't want to do at all. But this keyboard follow is key. Because with it all the way up at 255, every time we play a note, it is going to affect the pitch and speed. And we don't want the speed changing because I want to turn this into a pad. So I'm going to put that down. So that's about where we've landed. Now we could mess with the attack and decay. Cresset says, my friend Sam has 2 Roland P6s. Nice, yeah. 2 would be awesome because you would have a lot more ideas. But at that point, I'd almost buy an SP404 or the SP and the P6. I think that's one of the best combos. Okay, so that's our sample. So remember, we had, this is the original, and then we have this. So if we throw that in keyboard, which it's already in, what's a cool chord? That's all right. So let's drop the pitch down to, let's say, -12. And then we're going to change the end again. Because remember how I said at the end, we don't want those second notes. Oh, it's still tripping. Huh. There we go. So the end point here is really kind of weird and wonky, so you really have to mess with it. But the fact that we could turn that into this kind of... Oh, yeah. So let me just show you. If we put this sample in keyboard, right, and we play this... Well, first of all, we got to switch it to polyphonic. But check this out. That does not sound that good. But when we hit our granular... Now it's not changing to all those different notes. So like I was saying, it's weird, the settings. It takes a little time to dial it in. But once you get it, it can be pretty awesome. Now let's go into... I think it's voice, but I want the send delay. Oh, it's actually mixer, I think. We're going to put on... We could also shut off that auto pan, but I'm going to keep it on for right now at random. So it just kind of moves around a little bit more. So I'm going to put a little delay on. And when I say a little, I mean it's a lot. A healthy amount. Reverb. There we go. Just douse it in reverb. Okay, so now... with our pad, I like that. That works. And I like these chords. Maybe... Oh, I like that. Yeah. There we go. Perfect. Okay, that's our chord progression. So we're gonna need, oh, sorry about that. We're gonna need 2 bars for that one. So we're going to, gotta remember, is it last? Yeah, hit this, go to duplicate, and duplicate it. So now it should be, we could have just made it 32 actually, because we didn't have anything set in it yet. But I just work the most optimal workflow. I'm just used to doing certain things. So let's go, we have this little drum. I'm gonna just put this here as a click track. I'm never the biggest fan of click tracks, so I'm just gonna put in over here a kick that's gonna act like a click track. Same thing basically, but for me, just, I don't know. I'd just rather hear a click or a kick. Rondo says, wow, pads out the P6, very nice. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with the P6, right? Like, the granular engine is what I think sets it apart. And it's really sometimes annoying to get a good pad out of a sample with the granular engine, but when you do, it's awesome. And I think it's worth experimenting with once in a while just to see what you can do with granular sampling and things like that. But, you know, I totally get it. It is annoying, so there is that. Now let's go. I'm gonna just get a feel for the beat here, and then we'll record it. So we're gonna do Yeah, now I just need to make sure what page we're on. Okay, so that's going to be page 1. So let's get that recorded. Okay, I think quantize was on enough that that it should work. Let's see. Claymore says, after seeing the review of the Casio sampler, P6 still better even without screen and SD card. Is that? I think you're saying that, right? You're not asking that, right? Because yeah, I mean, I got to play the Casio sampler at NAMM when it was still kind of in its prototype phase or whatever, and there were some really cool perks, but I think I need to see it to make more judgment. I think it's awesome. It looks really cool. It looks promising. But every sampler has its pros and its cons. And it depends on workflow, really. Okay, so we got that. Now let's get some drums. Let's see. So that was our original sample. We have a couple drums. Oh, I like that one. Let's chop that up. Another thing I love about the P6 is just how quick it is to chop. Right, like if we want to chop, it is annoying afterwards that you can't adjust chop points, but to just chop something up into auto chop, you just hit shift voice, go over to chop, and then you set how many chops you want. So this is 1 bar. I moved it in through the P6, what do you call it, the app, where you just move it in and I adjusted it. And I put everything into really low sample rates because that's another thing I love with the P6, sampling in with the sample rates. Something like the MPC sample and even the SP404 Mark II, the Mark II, don't have the sample rate adjustments. It just gets so gritty and sounds so good. You could, of course, do something like use Koala, use Bit Crusher or Bit Cooker, I think it's called, then send it into one of those. But just another thing of why I still really like the P6 is those sample rates when you're sampling in. And you can easily do it when you're using the app because you can just down sample, and it's pretty much the same thing. So let's do 16, because like I was saying, this is just 1 bar. Okay, we have... That should work, actually. Okay, let's... Here, we got here. I'm going to turn off quantize to start. So I'm going to let it loop 1 more time. This could get really messy, but we'll try it. Okay, so I know there's a second kick. We're going to turn that one off now. This one, and let's see how messy that that beat became. And I think I actually recorded it twice on the loop, so whoops. But let's see what it does. I actually kind of like that it's messy. I just think, where was it? Over on this first one. Yeah, we have a snare. So let's just go, the first sample or first chop should be the kick. So if we just undo that one and redo it, it should now be whatever, C3 or whatever. We can actually check if we hold that, C4. That's the stock note. A little bit more in the chat. Let's see. Rondo says, I didn't even realize that granular synthesis engine was as comprehensive as the S1. I wouldn't say it's as comprehensive as the S1, and it is really annoying to navigate because it's all little menus on here. I had to reference my cheat sheet just to remember what all of these things were and stuff. So, you know, like, it's not laid out like the S1 where everything or a lot of things are right there. There is menu diving on the S1 too. But it is really powerful to have, since there's no internal sound generation, you can do a lot with the sound generator, not sound generator, sorry, with the granular engine and a sample. Like that vocal sample we took. That sounds nothing anymore like that. And yeah, Rondo also says the raw lo-fi sample rates is what sold the P6 for me. That was my immediate, when I saw that it had it, I think it was a non-juror video before it came out or something. It's like, okay, I'm sold. Because I was looking into buying like an SP202, and I love the vintage gear and stuff, but I don't want to deal with things that are a lot harder to maintain, and then if they break, like, it's just a lot. And then, you know, I have 2 kids under 2, so they love to use my gear, like use the samplers and stuff, and that's just a lot. Let's see what else we got in the chat. Claymore says, love using the P6 as effects box with the MPC sample. Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to talk about at the end when we talk combining the P6. It's like having a little portable SP404. Toby says the sampler has 16 voices and granular has 4. Yeah, there's actually a surprising amount of voices in the P6, and I always, for the longest time, kept saying it had 12 voices, and I was wrong. So if I ever say it, it's just in my head that it is, but it is 16, I believe. You're right. Let's see. Claymore says, I really think the P6 is even better than the KO2. Oh. I'll let you know soon. Let's put it that way. And then Vince says, I think the KO2 has low sample rates in the newest update. It did add sample rate changes, yeah. But I don't know if that's on whatever's in it or if it's just what you're recording in. You can use this lo-fi button to make anything sound lo-fi. I mean, this is just destroyed now because it's already a low sample rate. But it has that, and then as well when you sample in, you have the lo-fi bit rates and stuff. I'm not sure with the EP133 how that works, other than I know, yes, when you sample in, you can change the bit rate, but that does help make it a little more like the PO33, which is something I was always a little hesitant about checking out the KO2 for. Fergsmax says, how well can it manage 4-bar loops for house music? I mean, it's super easy to set. You can set 128 steps, so 4 bars, and you just build the loop. You could build a 1-bar loop and duplicate it into 4, or you could build a more complex 4-bar loop. We have a 2-bar with the 32 steps that we made, but we could easily just duplicate that, make some changes, and we might. The idea here isn't to finish the song. I just wanted to kind of talk granular and things like that, because I've just been surprised. Like, I guess distance lends, that nostalgic view, but like I just forgot how much I really liked the P6, and using it lately, just like, oh yeah, I've just been having fun. Like, I'm not necessarily making full songs on it. I just make the idea, and then I can move it into the DAW, stem split it, or I can, build it more on the SP or the MPC sample or something. But it's such a good little ideation station for me, so that's why I've been liking it. And yeah, the lo-fi button, Rondo, yes, definitely. Okay, so here's our track so far. I think we need to get a bit more of a prominent kick. Before we do that, though, one thing we can try, and this is a little filter trick, on this drum, we're going to add a filter, but we're not going to add a low-pass filter. We're going to add a high-pass filter, and we're going to drop the cutoff to somewhere near the low end of the track. And then we're going to up the resonance, and this is actually going to peak the low end. So we're going to do it a lot just to test it. So I don't know if you got headphones on, but you can hear, if we take it out right, it sounds terrible, like really raise the high end. But find where the peak of that kick is. There it is. Now we don't want that much. Okay, so just to show you, if we shut off, that's our original drum sound. Doing this little trick ups that low end a little bit. But then you can't tame the high end if you wanted to use like a low pass filter. So, you gotta, with any sampler, it's all compromises. So you just have to figure out what you want to do. Now let's just see what happens if we slow this down. I don't like it. What happens if we speed it up? Perfect. Okay, now I do want on that second bar, this one right here, I want to change that to a snare. So let's see what, this is E4. So let's see if we put this to E4, let's see if we get a second snare. Oh, there's like another one. Oh, I see. See, I was thinking ahead and tried to do it, but it quantized differently. Or with quantize off, it just set it there. So let's see what that sounds like. That's a little too chaotic, actually, I think. Oh, and I think I did the wrong one. Anyway, we have multiple E4s. Let's just try moving things around. So if we're holding each step, you can actually change the note. And since the chop is treated like notes on a keyboard, every single note is a different chop point. Again, we can't change the chop points. Like, we can't move the slices where they are, but we can at least do this sort of adjustment. Let's see what that sounds like. We can always change it back, too. And then, okay, that sounded decent, but this one, is way too loud. So we're gonna just drop the velocity, per step velocities. See, hear that? Now we get a little more movement to it. Because otherwise that kick right between the two snares was just way too overpowered. So we can just go in and change that. We can also fix the timing. We can do like micro time adjustments, probability. So like maybe we don't want that snare here to hit every single time. So let's just change the probability to 50%. Basically acting like we've made a 4-bar loop when we still are lazy and have just a 2-bar loop, because I don't feel like duplicating it again. So now, theoretically, only half of the time this should hit. So this next time it should not hit, but we'll see. No, it still did it. Okay, there, it took it out. So there we go. And Fergs Max says, I mean 4-bar sample loops like Daft Punk style. Are you meaning just playing a 4-bar sample? Otherwise, just explain it more. I know Daft Punk quite well, but I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you mean just like triggering 4-bar samples and what you would then want to do with it. I mean, you can play longer samples, but the sample time on the P6, it's not very good. So you have to think that. I think this was like this drum was originally like a 32-bar drum loop or something, and I think at the highest sample rate and stereo, it was only going to get a little bit of it, and then it's much more, well, it's not much more, but every drop in sample rate, and then if you switch it to mono, you get longer and longer sample times, but the max is not very long. It's, I mean, seconds. I think I have it in my cheat sheet here. I might be able to find it later, but yeah, the overall sample time is not very long. Maybe someone in the chat, if they know or can search it while I'm live, they can let you know, but yeah, it's not very long. Okay, so I've got a couple other samples from my Memory Signals sample pack. I think that'll work as a bass. These are just sounds from my Prophet and MS1 run through a bunch of effects. I think that might work for a bass, maybe. Let's just do that. It can be simple enough. That last one's not the right note. It's probably B. So let's go in and let me check over on page. I'm going to change that last note. Is it this? Yeah, we're going to have to change. Wait, what? All right, let's change. Maybe F? Oh, I see what it is. Okay. Hold on. So A sharp, let's go. I'm surprised, I really thought that A sharp would have fit, but I mean, I'll tell you what. Let's just undo it. See what happens there. Yeah, that'll work. Sometimes simpler is even better. It would have been cool to have a little higher note, and we could make it 4 bars, add it again, but I'm gonna just tone it down just a little bit. Put on that low 5, and then we have this note, which is definitely not the right note, but that's why we can use the keyboard. So I'm using this little keyboard and it works, but it really is annoying, and especially because it's just runs horizontal. It's not the different notes, and it's not shaped like a piano keyboard. They nicely have it kind of laid out with the note names, but with samples, you know, samples are not going to be those notes usually. These two are, because they're just C notes that I made. I could tell there's a melody there, but we have to just kind of think about it. I do think I'm going to just raise the pitch up to 12. And I could just go up in the keyboard, but, you know. Yeah, sampler for ants. You're right, Rondo. That's true. Now, I like that, but I think it's a little too much high end now. And that may change. But I'm going to just use a filter to take out a little bit. That's like too happy. I don't want it that happy. You definitely need a MIDI keyboard now. I have a ton. I just don't want to use it right now. And that's what I like to... Sometimes it's nice to just limit it. Yeah, I have an electric guitar. Again, I don't want to use these right now. I want to limit it to this for just an exercise in minimalism. It's fun to challenge yourself sometimes. I have guitars, pianos, MIDI keyboards, all that. But where's the fun in that sometimes? It's nice to just challenge it. Now, when I finish this song, you're right. I would definitely add a bunch on it. I would probably stem split the idea we have and then build on it from there. But I find starting with really constrained workflows just makes me think in ways I wouldn't normally when I have just everything, where I don't freeze. I just kind of commit to something. So that's why I like to do it this way. And again, this is not a very good keyboard, but it works. Yeah. Yeah, and you're right, Cresshead. This is something that's crazy. I really thought the P6 would get some kind of update at some point, but I think the P6 got one or two like early updates that were just kind of bug fixes. Yeah, you're even saying that. I'll just read what Cresshead says. Roland Compacts, not any of them. None have received any feature updates. Bug fixes, yes. Feature updates, no. It's just crazy to be like the SP has gotten so many updates. Meanwhile, the P6 hasn't, and it works, and I don't have that many complaints about it of things that I would want fixed, or there are features I'd love to see added, but honestly most of the features I would want to see added to a Roland device would be features from the P6 added to the SP. And yeah, so all right, I'm not hearing the lead that I want, but yeah. But okay, here's a good question: what updates or feature updates would you want to see added to the P6? Because like, okay, while I'm live, I can't think of any. As soon as I shut it off, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'd love to see that. Sidechain obviously would be really cool. And I can think of one thing that would be needed, and it's desperately needed: the routing of the bus effects. I can't stand that the send effects are after these bus effects. So if we were to set things into the bus effects or into the send effects, then we do something like, you know, the cliche looper. Like you can hear, because I have the reverb cranked to 100 on that granular, you can still hear the pad perfectly because the send effect is like running parallel to the bus effects. And that drives me crazy. So that is something. All right, let's see though. I'm not hearing the lead that I want. Every note's wrong there. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll probably figure something out of the lead right after we finish. But I think we're going to call the song there. We may add a little bit more, but I don't want to do too much more arranging to it. We have the basic premise of the idea. I would probably add a little bit more here, but I definitely want to add more in the DAW. And then maybe in a future live stream, we can talk about ways of finishing it. But the last thing I really want to talk about is just the P6's place in the kind of sampler ecosystem hierarchy, whatever you want to call it, that exists now with all these samplers coming out. I have the MPC sample here because I think this is one of my favorite kind of combos that I've found. Obviously, the SP and the P6 are a really solid combo. But I have my qualms with things on the MPC sample. The effects are just not my favorite. And the resampling methods are just kind of annoying. And like the fact you can only have the one knob effect and then those master effects, the overall that kind of treat everything. That, like these are, no, not this. This is the main effect, but we can get over to, I actually forget how we get over to the, pad effects. So these pad effects are over the master, so they're on everything. So they're really cool for resampling something you've already sequenced, but you can't just, it'd be nice if there was like 2 buses of that, like the SP, or even 1 bus that, you know, but it's like just on everything. And then you get this knob effect. So there's kind of the 2 bus effects, but I don't know, it's just not my favorite way of it, and it's just kind of weird to navigate. What's so good about the MPC sample is the chop function, because the chop is just insane. If we find like a longer sample somewhere like this, and then get over to chop, you can see all these chop points that it makes. It's just so quick. It's similar to this, but you have a screen and all that stuff. And I like sequencing on here, and I love the pads on this. They're really good, even for playing melodic things, unlike these. But what I think is so great with the P6 is that you've got that granular, which we've just spent, 30-something minutes messing around with and getting that really cool pad sound. But then you also have the really quick auto chop, and then all or most of the SP effects are here. So if you wanted to resample things, and then the sample rates. You got the sample rates, you've got the SP effects, and you've got the granular engine. So that's why I really like this combo, and I might make a video on it at some point. That is something I like. It also works similarly with the SP. I think the SP works a lot better for me as a standalone unit than the MPC sample does. I really have to pair the sample with stuff, and that could just be me. Let me know if you think differently. But yeah, I think with any sampler, having the P6 with it for the granular, for the awesome SP type effects and stuff, that's what I think makes it so stand out. And unless the prices change, because I know there's all these crazy price changes with RAM and all that stuff, but it was like $220 when it came out, I think, and maybe it's still in the 200s. So like any sampler you get, even if you get like an EP133, that's still what, 500 something, like similar to just an SP404. So it's just things to experiment with if you wanted to get multiple workflows, you know, instead of just buying one, or you have issues with a certain sampler or something. Let's see what else we got. What is that? Cyan Anxiety Orchestra. Sorry if I butchered that. P6 is like a tiny modern 303. I love it. Yeah, 303 or even the 202 with those like sample rates and all that stuff. Rondo says the Compacts ecosystem was so well thought out that the feature set is pretty golden. I mean, I think you're right. Yeah. There, like I said, there are things I would want to see changed. Especially, I will always bring it up because it's just my biggest issue. The bus effects routing. Like, I'm not saying I want to do a ton of DJ effects looper, right? But I just can't stand that whatever effect I put on, anything in the sends, if I put, like, check this out. If we put these drums in a reverb send, right? Let's go over to, not mixer, sorry. Where is that? Isn't it mixer? Hold on. But if we put these drums, we don't want to mute that. Put these drums in, here we go. That was just tripping out. Let's put these drums a little bit, just a little bit, 32 in the reverb, right? Okay, just so you can hear the reverb, I'm gonna raise it a bit more. That actually sounds kind of cool. I might leave that, but and just take out some low end. But check this out. So if we do this stereotypical, you can still hear the drums in the reverb. Let's up it a ton so you can hear it. Meanwhile, I'm doing all this SP looper, DJ effects looper to the main sound, but the send effects just do not get hit by it. It just drives me crazy. Oh, and Rondo, thanks for checking. $269 on Sweetwater, so it has gone up. That's a bummer. I still think it's worth it. I mean, that's still one of the most like inexpensive samplers out there, especially for what it can do. That's crazy though. It sucks that all these prices just keep going up. But anyways, so that is the thing I would want to see. Let's see what else we've got. Wide Ropers, I think that says, can you show me how to export a finished beat into a DAW with separate tracks? In which DAW do you mix a beat made on the P6? All right, well, I've got some bad news for you that you can take up with Roland, because there's no way to send separate stems like as a jam. There's no multi-track audio out with the P6 or even with the SP. On the SP, I know you can do like a pattern where you make the pattern and then you can export it to, I think, the SD card or something as stems. Like every individual sample in the pattern is exported like as a loop, as a stem. But there's nothing like the Digitact with Overbridge or even the Polyan Tracker where you can send multi-stems or multi-track audio out. And honestly, it's not the biggest deal, because for me, the way that I do it is I will just jam this song, right? Like I'd probably just mute all of this. We got to let that bass end for a second. But so I would start, let's say, with this sound, and maybe we would have like a filter on. Oh, but see, the reverb's on, so you wouldn't hear the filter difference anyways. And then maybe I would bring in the drums a little bit, or the bass. And like I would just be recording this session of just playing things. And then I'd play that. And then maybe I would add a lead on top, do a drum drop out like this, like. And so that whole session's being recorded in the DAW. Then I use Logic, so I would stem split and just separate all of the sounds as best Logic can. There is some artifacting, but it's just worth having that creative flow of just jamming and then being able to stem split later instead of like sending a pattern out or something. So that's how I would do it. Then with the stems, you could then arrange, you can make fixes. I have multiple videos on this. You can check out the last couple videos, and I have an SP looper video coming out in a few weeks where I'm going to show this workflow in full. I can't do it with the setup I have for the live stream, but I have multiple videos on it. I think the video 3 weeks ago or something, I was starting songs all wrong. That one literally will walk you through that. It's just using a different sampler as a start point, but that will show you everything that I did. And so from there, then I would just step split, add additional sounds. I'll add guitar, like you guys were saying, oh, add guitar, add piano, get a MIDI keyboard. That's where I do that, because then I don't have that blank page paralysis where I'm like, I don't know where to start. I've already finished the idea, and now I can just embellish it, add effects and stuff like that. And again, if artifacts really bother you with stem splitting, I mean, the good news is unless you're changing the arrangement around, the artifacts aren't going to be heard, because they're just the different ways the stem splitter's trying to split the sounds up. And so sometimes it'll put like a guitar sound on the drums. But if you're not changing the arrangement where you're muting that guitar part, it doesn't matter, because it's still the whole frequency spectrum is being played. It's just where it separates them, if that makes sense. So that's how I do it. Again, check out the video. I was starting songs wrong or something like that. You'll see it. But that'll show you that whole workflow, and you can change arrangements and all that. It's awesome. Dominic says, you're cool and I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining. It's awesome to see you. And let's see. Rondo says, maximum mono sample time. This is for a question from above. It's 5.9 seconds. That's at 44.1. Yeah, but if you go to the lowest sample rates, it's like 22 seconds or 40 seconds or something. But yeah, mono at the highest, 44.1, is definitely very short. And stereo, I think, is like 2 seconds. So yeah, I like never put stereo sounds. These two samples from my sample pack are in stereo because they're just a single note. So it's like, who cares? But even those were getting cut off at the high sample rate because they're long, because I have a really long audio tail for the reverb and stuff. Let's see. I'm not sure what Cress said, what you're saying there on P6. Oh, you can write music as you can record pitches. The MPC sample is useless for that. I would completely disagree with you. I do synths all the time on the MPC sample. I get what you're saying, and yeah, you can't go up and down octave. It's really weird. Hopefully they add that. But I play keys on it all the time, and you can. It works. It's functional. I've written whole songs with my next EP. 2 of the 5 songs were written on the MPC sample with live performance on them for synth notes and stuff like that. And then I did that same method. The whole EP uses that method where you record into the DAW, stem split, add more instruments and stuff like that, and then call it a day. So I get where you're coming from. I don't agree with that. I really like the MPC sample. I think I would prefer the P6 though if I could only choose one, honestly. There's no internal sound synthesis on the MPC sample, and while there isn't on the P6, you have the granular, so you can do a lot with that sort of stuff. But I think that's pretty much everything I want to talk about. I'll hang on for a couple minutes. If you've got questions about the P6, other gear, whatever, throw them in the chat while I'm here, and we'll go from there. It's really bugging me. I still want to get like a little lead. So I'm going to just see, maybe there's a different sound. Whoa. Sorry about that. That is so distorted. Okay, just have to find the notes. That's it. Okay. Here we go. I keep recording double, but we'll just let it be. Okay, we got something. That was bugging me. I really wanted just a lead on top. Now, of course, one of the big issues I have with the P6 is navigating these for mutes, because a lot of what I do, like I talked about, is doing mutes, right? The track mutes to build up your song. It's very annoying. Like, I think most of this sample stuff is on D, but to mute E, we would have to do this double tap. Again, it's a function of the format, and it is what it is, but, you know, just, I like the P6, and I wanted to talk about the things I like about it, but I think it's fair to talk about the criticisms and the things that I don't think it does the greatest, so that's where we are. But let's go up. Oh, were we at a different pitch? Oh no. Okay, so we were at -10. Oh man. Okay, we'll just leave it. I don't feel like messing with that. And I'm gonna shut off lo-fi on it. And it sounds like it's got a lot of delay on you. It's cranked on the delay. But let's lower the reverb. And let's go in and actually fix the delay. Now, what's always funny to me too, the delay and send reverb settings are in Mixer, but to actually change the delay and reverb settings, you have to go to delay and reverb. That's always just kind of funny to me, that it would be split up like that. Yeah, we'll do quarter notes. I kind of like the quarter notes. Dominic says, tiny keys are my only semi-deal breaker on Roland. J6 has workable single octave though. Yeah, that's the only one I'm not super familiar with. Actually, that's not true. There is the vocal one that I've like never even used. But yeah, the J6 one kind of eludes me, the workflow of it. I'd have to like get it and use it, but I just don't really have much use for it. So but it does look cool, and it makes some really good sounds and stuff. But I really miss my S1. I miss the S1. At some point, I've got to get it again, because that S1 was awesome. There we go. All right. I think with that, we've got our lead. We've got everything. It's been awesome hanging out with you. I think we'll call it there. Again, if you want to see how I would finish this song, let me know. Maybe in a future live stream, we can actually send the jam into the DAW and stem split it. Still figuring out the live streams and stuff. This was awesome hanging out with you all. And if you do want to keep seeing live streams, just let me know. Hit the like button. It helps a ton, and it shows YouTube like you want to see these live streams. And I'll be back on Saturday. We're going to get back to our normal Saturday video schedule with a video I've been working on for a while. I'm really excited about this one. So I hope you'll tune in. It's going to be Saturday at 9 a.m. And let's see, Transient Snail says, I love the probability settings on the P6. You can put multiple notes on one step. Oh, this I did not know, actually. You can put multiple notes on one step with different probabilities, so you can very easily program in random melody variations. That's awesome. That's really cool. I'm going to have to look into that. Not that I don't believe you, just meaning I need to give that a test, because that's really cool. And that's something I didn't know. See, that's why I love these live streams. We can all just like learn. That's awesome. All right, everybody. Rondo, cheers. And Dominic says S1 is fire, but ain't trying to lug a MIDI keyboard. I'm not trying to bring a keyboard either. That's why we're stuck with these ridiculously small keys. Sampler for ants, as I think Rondo said. But yeah, and I think we're gonna do live streams every other week. But I've got a couple videos queued up, so I'm still figuring that out. But just keep an eye on my community posts, and if you want, follow me on Instagram. It's at Sunwarper, because I'll be talking about when I'm doing live streams and stuff. But I'm still figuring out how the live streams are going to fit into everything. So it's awesome hanging out with you all, and I don't want to stop doing them. I've really enjoyed the last two that we've done, but I just have to figure out their place in like the schedule and my timing and stuff. So yeah, but it's awesome hanging out with you, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.